Have you heard the phrase, ignorance is bliss? I've been warning everyone the housing market was in a massive bubble and that the housing crash was only a matter of time, all the while taking heavy criticism from my industry peers because real estate professionals, everyone from agents, loan officers, title companies, home inspectors, and others serving the housing market has been in denial, not wanting their payday to end. Heck, even mainstream media and celebrities like Dave Ramsey and Barbara Corcoran, who both I like and respect a lot, have even said home prices would not come down. But now reality is setting in and the proof will be in the numbers moving forward. In fact, I'm about to show you new sentiments from industry experts and how they've changed their tune. But come on, it doesn't take a Wall Street analyst or a rocket scientist to figure it out. When market bubbles begin to burst because the prices clearly no longer work within our income means, a painful correction is needed. The bulk of Americans can no longer afford to buy a home or rent a home on two salaries. Food, utilities, car repairs, and other life's essentials are being financed on high-interest credit cards. People are now curbing their spending, and it's showing up in businesses nationwide as they're shutting down locations, leaving an already battered commercial real estate sector with even more unwanted vacancies. Here it comes, folks. As more than 2,600 retail stores alone have closed their doors so far in the first 4 months of 2024. Welcome back to this week's Real Estate Q&A, where we'll address current real estate issues, and I'll talk about 5 comments from our viewers of our YouTube channel during the last week. If you're new to the channel, I'm Todd Sachs, broker and founder of Sachs Realty, a Maryland real estate brokerage with a pulse on the national housing market. If you need an agent, visit SachsRealty.com to connect with me or with my amazing nationwide broker network. And if you don't see an agent in your city, email me directly and I'll connect you with someone I trust. Now, in our last Tuesday Night Live podcast, I had some unpopular guests. Now, these guys were really nice, educated, and very competent financial planners. Here's the problem. They only work for the rich. You need $500,000 in cash to be able to work with these gentlemen, but hopefully for my audience who watched the show that they learned a few tips and through my questioning could easily read between the lines of who's really running our system here in the United States. And as a small business owner and employer of more than 35 years, I can tell you big business has been wreaking havoc on small business owners and taxpayers for many years. And for the most part, these Wall Street companies care about one thing, and that's big profits. Profits for themselves and for their shareholders. Makes sense, right? But here's the problem. When consumers can't afford to spend money, these companies, in order to protect their earnings, get rid of employees and close locations. This results in a negative impact on the overall economy and becomes a spiral, delaying their fate, hoping that they'll see a turnaround in the economy before their shareholders get nervous and start selling their shares of stock. So let's see how things are working out. But even before that, let's see now what headline news can't deny. In this June 5th article on dailymail.com titled U.S. Bloodbath Continues as Store Closures Hit 2,600 so far this year. So guys, in the first 4 months of 2024, you can see the alarming trend line of nationwide store closures. This chart was sourced by Coresight Research created with Data Wrapper. And on Patch.com, this June 11th article titled Store Closures Surge Nationwide. It says across America, some 3,200 brick and mortar stores have been shuttered so far this year. And more closings are expected later in 2024, according to new analysis. Retail data provider CoreSite noted a 24% increase in store closures over the last year as the retail industry adjusts to a shift in consumer shopping to online outlets, inflation, and bankruptcies. Now, let's look at the list. Family Dollar closes 620 stores. CVS Health, 315. 7-Eleven, 272. Rite Aid, 165. Macy's, 51 stores. Burlington Stores, 39. Foot Locker, 36. Abercrombie and Fitch Company, 22 stores. Big Lots closes 13. General Dollar, 12. H&M, 10. And Best Buy, 9. Guys, this is all in the first 4 months of this year. Now let's take a look at what I've been talking about regarding the housing market. So Headline News still refuses to report on it, but thanks to Google and YouTube, if you care to do some research, you can find what you should be paying attention to if you're looking to buy or sell a home, or if you're someone whose job is dependent on a thriving housing market to either make a living or keep your job altogether. You should be researching to prepare for the possibility of a massive housing market downturn. And this could be coming to a neighborhood near you. Now let's look at this Google search. I simply typed in housing market, hit the news tab, and here we go. Housing market recession hit so hard, existing home sales fall to 1978 levels. Mortgage rates suffer a blow in the housing market. Americans are struggling to sell their homes. And in this article on foxbusiness.com titled Real Estate Expert Defines Housing Market Doomsday, something we haven't seen in our lifetime. So former $1 million listing agent Kirsten Jordan says U.S. real estate is preparing for a correction of home prices in 2024. It says in this article that a new report published by Fitch Ratings found that homes were overvalued by 11.1% at the end of 2023, a trend occurring in about 90% of U.S. metro areas. So the real question is, what are you seeing in your neighborhood, and what are your sentiments on the housing market? Do you believe that we'll see massive wage growth over the next 2 years to support the outrageous costs of homeownership? I don't, because massive wage growth would be required to prevent the housing market bubble from bursting. Now, before we get into this week's comments on our YouTube channel, let me not forget to say, please comment your thoughts below. Do you believe that we'll continue to see a seller's market, or based on what you're seeing in your neighborhood, is the housing market shifting to a buyer's market now? All right, so let me start addressing some of these comments from the last week on our YouTube channel. All right, so I interviewed a guy by the name of Harry Dent. The video has done pretty well. I think we're over 500,000 views so far. But Harry had said that home prices would drop by 50% in America, and that we will never, ever see home prices as high as they are today. And of course, you can imagine the controversy of what he has to say. And though I think a lot of people were saying, he's crazy, that will never happen, I think that we have to never say never. And we have to first think about how worse off we are today financially than back in the GFC. Now, before you go nuts and say, oh, that was a subprime mortgage crisis, and they were giving loans to everybody, no matter what you say, the facts are undisputable. Housing prices had never reached the unaffordability back then as they are today. And what I mean by this is that even in 2006, in the peak of the global financial crisis, you could still afford to buy a home. The median income earner could still afford the median priced home, or the median household income, in other words, could still afford to buy a median priced home. So that's not the case right now. Houses are, I hate to say it like this, but trading at a outrageous 7, 8, 9, 10 times median income. So it's not achievable. It's not reachable for average people. And now with interest rates, which aren't that bad. Historically, being at least double where they were just a couple years ago, it's made the affordability even worse. But this comment says, if prices fall, and this is addressing this Harry Dent interview, if prices fall 50%, that would be the price 3 years ago. And that's not actually any decrease at all because of the inflation. We will just go back to normal. Now, I have to tell you, I think if home prices drop 50%, buyers would be pretty happy, right? If we look at where they are today, I don't think, first of all, I don't believe we'll see 50% price declines. I think that we could see massive price declines, but I could be wrong. But I think that what would happen is Wall Street would just come in and buy up all of these houses. But I think that it's practical. If you look at median home sale prices, they have declined significantly since the recent highs of 2022, the spring of 22. I believe that was the peak. Now, it's kind of hard to compare two houses side by side, and how they cook the books with the numbers is quite ridiculous because you're never comparing two houses exactly the same side by side, unless it's a brand new community, and they've taken a pretty big hit so far. So prices have come down, but we are seeing, depending on where you are in the market across the country, prices leveling off and sustaining with multiple offers still occurring. But I do believe that we are in for some massive price correction. So great video if you want to check it out. I encourage you to do so. I'll drop the link below. The next commenter is talking about a recent podcast that I had with Philip Simonetta. He is a real estate broker in Florida. We were talking about how Florida inventory is skyrocketing. Home inventory has skyrocketed in some areas 1,000%. What we were talking about was, why would people move to Florida? There's no jobs. And it was said that, a lot of people are moving there because of medical jobs. Orlando built a medical city. And this commenter saying that 100% wrong on medical. Both my wife and I are nurses, and you will not get nurses to move here to be poor because of unpayable rents. Nurses are leaving the state and not coming here. So this was really addressing, why are people going to Florida? Why would you move to a state that has no jobs? And I think Philip was saying, we do have jobs here. There are a lot of medical jobs. And what this commenter is saying is, there may be jobs there, but people can't afford the Florida prices, the home prices, the insurance prices that are, can be $10,000 for, a modest house. And then property taxes and other cost of being in the state. So there is a big mass exodus. A lot of people are going to other states surrounding it, Tennessee, Georgia, and they're getting out of Florida. So I think Florida's in for massive correction. So the next comment is referring to our Tuesday night live that we had. And we were all in agreement, my guests on the show, the financial planners and myself had said, the Fed probably really screwed up. It'd go down as probably one of the biggest mistakes in history by not raising interest rates a year sooner, because that allowed the housing market to go up another 24, 26, 30%, depending on what market, from just 21 to 22 when they started to raise the rates. So that would have helped us out a lot. But let's think about it. Home assessments, price assessments help state taxes, property taxes. They can charge you more money. And also insurance companies can make more money because the home has a higher replacement cost. They can justify raising your insurance rates, which we've seen nationwide. But this commenter says the Fed did sleep on keeping rates near interest free for way too long. Think about it. Who's truly benefiting from that? The super rich. Look, a lot of it is, if you're a credit card company, think about this. If you could borrow money at near 0% and you could lend the money to a revolving account holder, a consumer, and you get hooked on using it because your interest rates are 2%, 3% on your revolving charges. You're like, cool, I can buy stuff. I don't mind not paying it off this month. I don't mind paying the 2 or 3% to carry the cost. But now that you're hooked on spending because You have to spending on your credit cards because you have to. You're putting your gas, your food, life's essentials on your credit card. Now they're at 30%. So imagine the money that they have made in sort of hedging or arbitraging even the 5.25% or 5.5% rate the Fed's charging now to borrow money. So there's still plenty of opportunity for these banks to get rich, and in fact, many of them are. All right, so like this commenter says, I agree. I think that keeping the interest rates too low allowed hard asset prices like housing to really get high, and this is what is really crippling, or will, in my opinion, cripple most consumers, middle income earners, lower income earners over the next however long, several years, maybe even a decade, where we have just made housing unaffordable. Our next commenter goes back to the Florida video, and I pulled this out not to just double down on Florida, but I really like the comment because they're pushing back to what we said about inventory going up. And this commenter says, absolute BS. Clickbait. Let's talk about pre-pandemic inventory levels. Over half the counties are lower than 5-year levels, cherry picking data. I started out by saying ignorance is bliss. I'm not picking on this commenter, but what I will say is that we don't look back far enough in the data. If you think the last 4 or 5 years is sustainable activity, this is part of the problem. Maybe you're a real estate agent. Maybe you're still triumphing and cheerleading and getting your buyers nervous about losing a deal and asking them to overpay, which could be keeping these home prices from crashing in the first place. I will tell you personally, I've seen it happen. You get, first of all, we know inventory is going up. Some states, new home inventory across the country is more than 7 months of supply. 6 months is really when we start to consider it a buyer's market, favorable to buyers. But they still have this heavy hammer called the media and other experts that I mentioned earlier in the video telling you that home prices are only going to continue to rise. So consumers are confused. Home buyers are confused. They're like, I fall in love with the house. I'm getting excited, but inventory is rising. That's not clickbait, guys. Okay. Real estate agents are contributing to the overpriced or overvalued housing market because what they don't see is the listing agent panicking saying, oh my gosh, I don't have any offers yet. And then all of a sudden 2 come in. Maybe 1 isn't that good, but when they're telling the agent on the second offer that they're multiple offer, their buyers are stepping forward and overpaying. So we are starting to see it happen. I would not go as far. Look, the details aren't lying. The data's not lying. If you dive deep enough, and it's hard because it's very easy to mask it right now, but the truth will come out. What they can't mask is that people are broke. And this next comment deals with rentals. Should you buy or should you rent? And this commenter saying you'd never be better off by renting anything. With time, all the rental you paid are gone, period. The only advantage of renting is if you're looking for a temporary residence. I'd say for 1 or 2 years. So look, I do agree with this to some degree. If you're only going to live in a place for 1 or 2 years, 3 years, rent. If you're going to stay there for a minimum, in my opinion, of 7 to 10 years minimum right now, because we probably will see a massive price reduction, and that will put you in a position where if you sell before, you have to come out of pocket or maybe even get in trouble and damage your credit because you can't pay off your loan with what you could sell it for. Maybe you'd have to ask for a short sale, which is where you pay the bank less than what's owed. But I don't think that renting is bad all across the board, even if you're going to be in a place for 5 or 7 years. It depends on your situation. If you're a single person, if you're a married couple, just 2 examples, and you make decent income, but you don't care about being rooted in the community yet with raising kids or customizing a home right now. You can find a place that you can rent for less than what you'd buy it with a mortgage, and you have nothing to worry about. No roof repairs, the heat breaks, whatever. You could take that money and invest it and come out way better ahead in the long run if you're with a a good planner, financial planner, get into some kind of retirement planning, somebody that has a good track record, you could probably find a better way to invest money early on in your careers, especially if you don't have money. If buying a house would mean you don't have any down payment money and that you'd have no reserve, well, then you could rent for a couple of years just to get up your rainy day account, your emergency fund. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you get value from our videos. And if you did, you can hit the thumbs up. It'll let me know. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. Hit the alert bell, every time we upload content just like this. And one of the biggest compliments you can give me is if you share this video or our channel with your family and friends. Let's build a community where we can deliver good, honest, up-to-date real estate information. See you next time.
Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.